Welcome back to the channel. Jack with Crichton Chronicles here with another first impressions video, and today is going to be the Viscounts of the West Kingdom. It is the third game in the West Kingdom series, and one that I was pretty excited to try after enjoying the previous two Architects and Paladins of the West Kingdom. Yeah, I was pretty excited to get into that, and got a few games in. The components are really nice. All the production for all the games have been really nice, I feel. But I think the wooden pieces in here felt a little lighter and just cheaper, I guess, than Paladins. I would have to have them side by side and test them, but in general, the components are really good. I won't be going through them. I'll have a link down below. I do a what's in the box video if you want to take a look at the different components, different cards and stuff in the boards. But yeah, so that'll be available if you want to check it out there. But yeah, otherwise, this game was while setting it up, I was a little worried. It's a deck builder hand card management game. And I love deck builders, but it's a little different kind of deck builder. You'll have like a tableau, and each turn you'll be putting out a card, and each one will slide over as you put a new one. You can have a total of 3 out at any one time, and it's fairly unique to me. I don't think I've played another game that does that, especially with the deck building aspect to it. But yeah, I really like that. It's like Paladins in terms of difficulty. I would say it's like definitely mid-weight, but it's not that it's really complicated for what you're doing, because you're kind of just having certain actions. I mean, you'll be going around a rondel board, and you'll be either hiring or dismissing townsfolk, getting some abilities from that or icons to help you do other actions, which are like buy resources or build buildings, transcribe manuscripts, or put workers into there's like the castle. And so that's pretty much all you're doing, but all of it's random. The board setup random. So all those locations and places where you can put buildings or where the resources are to buy are randomly out there. And then the castle itself, which has different tiers, and as you go up into castles with your workers, they'll have different abilities that trigger, and that's kind of randomly placed out there. Then you have the manuscripts, which will all be, the top ones are all the same for starting, but after that, everything under it, and those are kind of random in itself on the 5 piles, because there'll be five segments to make the board, and so there's 5 piles of the manuscripts, and everything under the starter ones are all random, and they can range from needing 3 of a resource or an icon to fulfill to like 7, maybe even 8, maybe even 9. I don't even know. I'm not sure we saw them all in the 2 games that we played, but so those are all randomized, and then you've got the fact that all the townsfolk, there's like 5 piles of townsfolk around, which you'll be using to buy or dismiss. Like I said, I kind of go into it in the what's in the box video, but yeah, you'll be, adding. That's how you'll be adding cards to eventually to, you buy it, you hire them, townsfolk goes in discard. Eventually, when you run out of cards, you'll shuffle that into your deck, and then they'll be worked into your deck. So it's that the deck building is interesting. Like I said, it's like interesting because you're not playing all your cards, you're only playing 1 card a turn. So I feel like you don't get a whole lot of time to, well, depending, to play a lot of the cards that you might eventually get and hire and then work into your deck. But yeah, I don't know. It's just the fact that it's all random. There's just so much stuff going on that while it's not really difficult in what you're doing, it's difficult to kind of keep track of everything. And there's just so much going on. Kind of like Paladins. I don't find Paladins to be very difficult in terms of just difficulty for the sake of difficulty. It's more like there's just so many options and so many different things you can do. I feel like you really have to take and try to find a strategy that you want to run with and go with it. And in this one, I don't know what is the best one. I'll go into that a little later, but yeah. But in general, I love that everything's random. But it just, for analysis paralysis, it can kind of be a factor. It's maybe I don't know if it's as much as Paladins, to be honest. In some ways, it's a different. It just feels different, I guess. It's played totally different, so it's just its own different uh, analysis paralysis, at least for me. So the theme of the game is kind of. I felt like there wasn't a whole lot of theme. It's again like Paladins, where it's just you're doing these actions and whatever. You're just going around the board over and over and over and over again. And but the art is kind of what brings it all together. I love the art of the game, and on the cards, on the board, everything, and yeah, it's it's great in that aspect. But theme wise, I don't really feel like it's really strong, I guess. Um, and I know that due to the analysis paralysis, and the first time we learned it, it took about 3 hours. I think it says it's like 60 to 90 minutes. It took us, I think, 3 hours. I want to say, not maybe 3.5, just learning it though. We kind of, play as we go when we're first learning the first game and everything. We just take it slow. The next game after that was faster, but it was still, it was at least a 2 hour game, I feel. I don't think we hit that hour and a half. There's three of us. It says it's 1 to 4 players. Well, it says it's 1 to 6. So I don't know if there's an expansion coming out planned or if this is just like a misprint or some error when they did it or what. But I feel it'd be very interesting. 4 people, I don't even know, but 5 or 6 is, I think that would take quite some time. I don't know, but who knows? Maybe the game would end faster. Who does it say? But and the player interaction in it is very minimal. You can like crash into each other, your little Viscounts as you're going around the board, and that'll trigger something. And there's kind of interaction where you'll have you'll have a virtue token and a corruption token, and they're kind of moving. And when they collide, you'll get whatever's on the top, and there'll be something that happens to the opponents, but it's very minimal, and a lot of times it didn't even really affect players that much, opponents anyway. So yeah, the player interaction's fairly low, minus maybe getting rid of a card or a townsfolk you think somebody might like, or putting a building out on a spot someone might like. But there's so many different townsfolk and there's so many different building locations and everything. I feel like that's not a big deal. The castle in the middle is probably where the biggest is, where you can interact, because you can actually boot out other people's workers. It didn't happen a ton, but I could see if it was a focus of everybody and if you're fighting for it, then it could be a thing where that's where the most interaction probably comes from, I guess. So, but with the fact that it's all randomized, I feel like it's got really high replayability, and that's something that I really like. So, I mean, like I said, I felt like it was very, very analysis paralysis, but in a different way than like Paladins was. But because there's just so much you can do, and I don't know like what are the best strategies. When we played the first time, our friend did the castle, so like basically trying to fill up the castle with the workers, and I just felt like that part, while it was neat and whatnot, for a mechanic, I found it tedious, and trying to keep track of that and making sure you remember like the workers spread out, and as you climb, and if there's too many in there, you can boot somebody out and all that stuff. But I don't know. In a way, I thought, like I said, I thought it was neat, but I thought it was tedious, and we also thought it was maybe OP, because that's what our friend focused on, and he crushed us. I don't think I put one person in there, one worker, and I think my girlfriend put in like 2 or something, or maybe a few more. Because I remember very much so after the first game thinking that was a very powerful strategy, was the castle. It just seemed easier to put people in there for whatever reason to me. I know he had cards, though, that kind of helped with that strategy. And so I did look up and see like if that was OP or something, because I was like, man, he just like crushed us. And I can't remember what my strategy was. I think maybe buildings, but then I was like, man, doing buildings is really terrible. And I had found something that said it was like manuscripts, or no, workers and maybe manuscripts, or maybe he found an art like people talking about those two being most viable, but buildings being the least. So like, but on our second game, he actually did the buildings, and still I think crushed us. I don't know if it was as bad, but I don't know. One of the interesting mechanics in it that I really like is that, and an issue almost was he was so far ahead. He had actually put out all the buildings, and there's like, I don't know if there's 9, 10 of them or whatever. Got them all out, and then, you know, he was blatantly, obviously winning, but there was no like incentive for him to end the game because he could just switch strategies, and that is something that I saw people comment on, and I was like, yeah, I can totally see that because yeah, he could end it, but it's like why? Because he could just prolong it and get more points and make a higher blowout. So, and that was something I wasn't sure if that's common in this game or not. Like I said, we had 2 games, and but it did show that the buildings were technically viable. I don't know if he had a lot of cards that helped, but one of the factors that helped on both games, and even for me when I was doing my strategy, I think I don't know. My strategy was all over the place. I think first game I tried manuscripts, and then like second game I think I tried to like I was gonna do the castle, and then he was doing the buildings, and I just went all over the place. I don't know. I go all over the place because there's just so much going on and stuff, and sometimes you don't get the cards that help you do your specific strategy. And if somebody has those cards, I feel like they can take advantage or will pull ahead, especially when they have stuff, the cards needed necessary for that strategy on their board, and they're able to trigger the ability that allows you to rearrange the tableau, the cards on your tableau. And so you can constantly keep those out because there's a lot of things that help trigger that specific ability, a lot of the townsfolk that'll be out there and everything. And so if you can constantly do that and keep those townsfolk out there helping a strategy, you can, I feel, just dominate in that respect. It is kind of cool that the mechanics in the game of how the endgame triggers, I really like that a lot. There's like deeds and deeds and debts, and so the thing is they're inverse on the pile. Like whichever pile runs out first, at the bottom there'll be a scoring mechanism or scoring whatever. It's like how you score the points at the end of the game. And if you go through the deeds, it's going to be what matters is the debts. And if you go through the debts first, and that's the one that runs out, then the deeds are what's going to score. And it's basically whoever, like I said, it's the inverse. The deeds go down, it's whoever has the most paid off or flipped debts, and vice versa. All the debts are out, but then it's the deeds that are going to be scored for points, for victory points, and it depends on how many of those you have flipped. So it's a very back and forth, like, for the most part, trying to figure out, you want to have almost kind of like a little both, because like the first player, it goes in like, there's like 3 scoring, I think. It's like whoever has the first gets X amount, second and third. So in a 4-player game or more, which would be crazier too, they don't get any points beyond that. But so it's a nice like back and forth, like trying to figure, you can end the game by trying to get those, but then you kind of want to make sure you're ahead. And if you're already ahead, like I said, there's no reason except to just quit it. But if you want to, try to get as many points as you can, might as well keep going, because the other people are going to probably try to end it if they can. But because I know we tried. But yeah. So I don't know. I like that end game trigger to an extent. I just feel like it's kind of like, well, I don't know if there's a lot of incentive to end it, especially if you're ahead. So because he literally just, like I said, he got rid of the buildings. And so in my opinion, I was like, well, it shows that the building strategy was viable. I'm assuming you want to pick 1 or 2 various strategies to like build up your points. But, after he had done that, he just moved on to another, and he started collecting manuscripts and whatever and putting some people in the castle. And I was like, we got to end this because he's so far ahead. But there's no reason to for him to really be like, oh, why end it? I can just get more points. So I don't know. But I like it. It's just I don't find that there's a lot of incentive to end the game, especially if you're ahead. So it's an interesting trigger for end game. But yeah. So Anyway, overall, I really enjoy the game though. It does trigger my analysis paralysis. I just there's so much stuff going on. It's hard for me to focus on one strategy. I don't know why. It's just even with paladins. Like I think the last time we played, I was like I just stuck to like two of the main actions and stuff and tried to like fulfill those requirements and stuff. It's like this. It's I was all over the place the first game. Like I said, I tried manuscripts, and so I was trying to get inkwells and doing all these things and getting townsfolk to help that. But a lot of times I wasn't even getting them out on the board, the ones that helped me, until like later on, and by then it was already like way too late. So there is that. There are some mechanics that allow you to shuffle your deck sooner. There are some that help you cull. We didn't really utilize those a lot, and so maybe that would help really fine tune the deck so you do get those pieces more. So we'll have to maybe focus a little more on that. Yeah, the game itself is just there's so much randomness that the replayability is so high in my opinion. Even when you start the game, each player will get like a hero townsfolk and a player card, and it will like so you'll get a special townsfolk to start your deck with, but you'll also then get the starting components that you'll have. It'll be like your resources and silver and your location where you start and everything. So that those are randomly put out, like how many ever are playing, 3 or 4 or whatever. Maybe it's one, the amount of players plus one. Maybe I don't exactly remember, but either way, there'll be like random 4 townsfolk heroes and then 4 random player cards, and those will be paired, and then you pick them. And so just even with that alone, it's going to be different. I don't know how the heck they balanced all this or what they considered. I'm assuming that they had to have some kind of system to know that, like, to balance that and like what's more powerful than others, and with the cards and everything and the strategies. I'm assuming I'll have to look into it a little bit because I'm super curious. But we all really enjoyed it, both games, even if we got crushed, my girlfriend and I, the first 2 games. But I'm looking forward to trying it again. And yeah, I don't know. That's my first impressions of Viscounts of the West Kingdom. I would recommend trying it out especially if you're a fan of the other games. It's some of the iconography. There's a ton. And like I said, there's a ton going on. If you have analysis paralysis, it's going to be an issue. I can't imagine it not. And it's similar but a little different than Paladins, but in that regards. But yeah, I don't know. If you're a fan of the other games, I would definitely say check it out. And yeah, so anyhow, all right. Sorry, I haven't slept yet, and it's almost 6 o'clock. So yeah, thanks for stopping by, checking out the video. Let me know down below if you've actually played the game and what your thoughts of it are and what your first impressions were. And until next time, take care.